February 28th, 1984. Los Angeles, the Shrine Auditorium. Michael Jackson had already won 7 Grammys that night. 7. The stack next to his seat was getting awkward to manage. Brooke Shields was sitting beside him, smiling for the cameras every few minutes. Emmanuel Lewis was somewhere nearby. The room smelled like expensive perfume and nervous energy, the specific kind of nervous energy that fills a place when everyone already knows how the night is going to end. Michael wasn't performing. He'd said no to that weeks ago. So he sat there in his gold and blue sequined suit, those big aviator sunglasses, watching other people do what he normally did. It was a strange feeling. Not bad. Just strange. Like sitting in the audience of your own life for one evening. He thought about that more than he admitted to people. What it would feel like to just watch, to be in the crowd, to not be the thing everyone was looking at. Tonight was one of the only chances he ever got to find out, even if the cameras were still on him half the time anyway. He'd been polite through every acceptance speech, gracious, said the right things, thanked Quincy, thanked his family, took his glasses off for Katharine Hepburn because she told him to, which got more laughter than he expected. But somewhere around the 5th award, he started drifting a little. Not ungratefully. His mind just had a tendency to wander during moments that were supposed to be about him. He was more comfortable when the focus was on the work, not on him standing there holding a trophy. Then the announcer said Bonnie Tyler. Michael had heard Total Eclipse of the Heart on the radio, obviously. Everyone had. It had been impossible to avoid for most of 1983. He'd heard it in hotel rooms, in cars, coming out of stores. He knew the melody the way you know a song you've never chosen to listen to, but have absorbed anyway simply by existing in the world. But hearing a song on the radio and watching someone perform it live are two completely different experiences, and Michael knew that better than anyone. She appeared at the top of a long staircase, leather dress, high heels that looked like a bad idea on stairs that steep. She stood up there for just a second before the music started, and even from where Michael was sitting, front row, award statuettes accumulating, you could see she was nervous. Not falling apart nervous. Not the manageable, professional kind either. The real kind. The kind that makes a performance feel like something is actually on the line. She started singing. Michael stopped whatever he was thinking about. There's a thing that happens sometimes with voices, not often, but sometimes, where the sound cuts through all the ambient noise of a room and lands somewhere specific inside you. Not your ears, somewhere below that. Bonnie Tyler's voice did that. It wasn't a clean voice. It wasn't technically pristine. It was rough in places, strained at the top of the register, and it didn't matter at all because the roughness was the point. The imperfection was load-bearing. A cleaner voice would have made the song smaller. Michael leaned forward slightly. Not a dramatic lean, just an inch or two. Enough that Brooke noticed and glanced at him. He watched Bonnie come down those stairs in those impossible heels, and he thought, and he would say this later, that it was the most committed thing he'd seen anyone do on a stage in years. Not the singing, the walking, the fact that she came down those stairs like she decided the stairs weren't going to win. There was nothing graceful about it. It was just a woman with an extraordinary voice choosing not to fall, and somehow that made the whole thing more powerful than any choreographed entrance could have. The song built the way it builds. That long gathering climb through the middle section, the moment where it stops being a ballad and becomes something closer to a weather event. Michael watched Bonnie hold that with her whole body, not just her voice, the way the really good ones do. The ones who understand that performing is a physical act, not just a vocal one. He watched the audience respond in real time, not hysterical, absorbed. There's a difference. The performance ended. The room reacted the way rooms react to things that are genuinely good. Not the hysterical screaming of fans, but the kind of applause that sounds like people exhaling. Like something had been held and was now being released. Michael sat back, picked up one of his Grammys, put it down. About 40 minutes later, after the show had officially wrapped and the Shrine was turning into a slow-motion traffic jam of limos and publicists and people pretending to be less excited than they were, Michael found his assistant and said something quiet to him. The assistant nodded and disappeared into the backstage corridor. Backstage at an awards show is a specific kind of chaos. Different from front-of-house chaos. More real. People in headsets, half-eaten catering trays, artists in various states of transition between their stage selves and their regular selves. The hair and makeup of a performance slowly becoming the face of a person who needs to go home. Bonnie Tyler was standing near a monitor bank with her manager, still in the leather dress, holding a glass of water with both hands. She saw Michael Jackson walking toward her, and she did what most people do in that situation. She absolutely failed to play it cool. "Oh, bloody hell," she said, not quietly. Michael laughed, actually laughed, which people who knew him well said was rarer than the award suggested. "I've been called worse," he said. I just meant." Bonnie stopped, took a breath. She was from Skewen, a village in South Wales, the daughter of a coal miner, and she had not spent her life being the kind of person who got flustered. But here she was, flustered. "Sorry, hi." "Hi," Michael said. Then, "Those stairs." "Don't," Bonnie said. "I watched you decide to go down them." "You could see that from the front row?" "I could see it from the front row." Bonnie looked at him for a second. "I genuinely thought I was going to fall. I had a whole plan for how to make it look intentional if I fell." "What was the plan?" "Hadn't quite worked that out yet." Michael smiled. Not the press photo smile. Something smaller, something that didn't seem designed for anyone in particular. "Can I ask you something?" "You can ask me anything. You're Michael Jackson." "Does that mean I'll get an honest answer or a polite one?" Bonnie laughed at that. "Honest. Always honest. My manager hates it." The manager, standing 2 feet away, did not dispute this. "The voice," Michael said. "Is it always like that? Or is it different when you're recording?" Bonnie considered the question like it deserved to be considered properly. "It's rougher live. The studio smooths things out whether you want it to or not. Jim Steinman, he wrote the song. He always says the studio version is the photograph and the live version is the actual person. The photograph is nicer, but the person is more interesting." Michael was quiet for a moment. Not an uncomfortable quiet. The kind of quiet that means someone is actually processing what you said instead of just waiting for their turn to speak. "I think about that," he said. "The gap between the two. Between recording and performing. Between what people hear and what actually happened." He paused. "Tonight, watching you, I could hear something happening that the record doesn't have. I don't know what to call it." "Panic," Bonnie said. "No, not panic." He thought about it properly. "Stakes." It sounded like the stakes were real. Bonnie looked at him directly. "That's because they were. They always are for me. I've never worked out how to make it feel smaller than it is." "Don't," Michael said. "My manager says the same thing, actually. For different reasons, but no, don't work it out. The people who work it out, you can hear it. There's a version of performing where you get so good at it that nothing can touch you anymore. And the audience can tell. They clap, but they're not moved. They're watching. There's a difference between watching something and being inside it with someone." Bonnie looked at him steadily. "You sound like you've thought about this a lot." "I've thought about it tonight. Watching you." That landed quietly between them. Bonnie's manager had found something very important to look at on his clipboard. "Can I tell you something strange?" Bonnie said. "Please." "I was terrified to come down those stairs specifically because you were in the front row. I knew you were there. I saw you before the music started. And I thought, he's going to be watching with the ears of someone who knows what this is supposed to sound like. And that was more frightening than the stairs." Michael looked slightly surprised. "Why?" "Because you're Michael Jackson. You say that like it explains something. Doesn't it?" He was quiet again. Then, "I'm a better audience than I am a judge. I don't sit in rooms and evaluate things. Something either hits me or it doesn't. Tonight yours hit me. That's all I wanted to tell you. I sent someone to find you because I wanted to tell you that in person." Bonnie Tyler had been in the music industry since the mid-70s. She'd been dismissed, underestimated, Told her voice was too rough, too raw, too much. She'd lost tonight's award to Irene Cara, which was fine. She'd said so publicly and meant it. She was not a person who needed external confirmation to know what she was. But she was also human, and Michael Jackson had just walked across a backstage room to find her. "Thank you," she said, simple. No performance in it. "The song is extraordinary," Michael said. "Jim Steinman. It's like he wrote it from inside a feeling rather than about one. Most songs describe an emotion. That one just is it." "He has that," Bonnie agreed. "He doesn't write pop songs. He writes operas with electric guitars. When I first heard the demo, I cried. I rang him and said, I don't know what this is, but I know it's mine." "And was it?" "From the first note. Some songs are waiting for you. You don't choose them." Michael nodded at that like it confirmed something he already believed. "I kept thinking during your performance. There's no armor in it. The song doesn't give you anything to hide behind. It just puts you out there completely." "Tell me about it," Bonnie said dryly. Michael laughed again. "I mean that as a compliment." "I know. I took it as one." Someone appeared at Michael's elbow with the particular expression of a person whose job is to peel their employer away from conversations politely. The night was winding up. There were things to get to, people waiting, a world outside the Shrine Auditorium that was going to want pieces of him before he got anywhere near sleep. He shook Bonnie's hand. Properly. The kind of handshake that acknowledges the conversation actually happened. "The stairs," he said as he was turning to go. "The stairs," she agreed. That was it. No grand declaration. No story that turned into a collaboration or a headline or a carefully managed industry moment. Just two people who both understood what it actually cost to stand in front of a crowd and mean it. The real cost, not the glamorous version. Talking to each other honestly for 8 minutes in a loud backstage corridor before going their separate ways into the same industry that would treat them very differently in the years that followed. Michael Jackson won his 8th Grammy that night. Bonnie Tyler flew back to the UK. Total Eclipse of the Heart has now been heard by more than 1 billion people. She passed away on July 8, 2026, in a hospital in Portugal. She never did work out how to make the stakes feel smaller than they were. You could hear it every single time she sang. The photograph was always nice. The person was always more interesting. That was the whole point.